Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I tested my microphone earlier, but I am seeing a red light on the microphone. Can you all hear me?
I
Yes,
can, Your
we
Honor.
can.
Okay, great. Now calling proceeding number 24M-0274R. It is December 9th, 2025, and it is 2:30 p.m. This proceeding concerns the development of template construction and maintenance agreements and preliminary engineering agreements for use in public crossing projects over which the commission has jurisdiction, as required by Rule 7214 of the commission's rules regulating railroads, rail fixed guideways, transportation by rail, and rail crossings, found at 4 Code of Colorado Regulations 723-7. Hearing was scheduled by decision number R25-0670-I, which was issued on September 17th, 2025. My name is Melody Mirbaba, and I am the administrative law judge who is assigned to hear this case. Consistent with the commission's practice, we are recording and live webcasting both the video and audio of this hearing. This webcast is going to continue during any breaks that we may take, so I just ask everybody to keep that in mind in the event we do take a break. To make sure that we have a clear record, I'm going to ask everybody to keep your microphones muted until it is your turn to speak. I'd like to start by finding out who we have here today with us, but I really only want to hear from those of you who plan to participate in today's hearing or may need to participate in today's hearing. So if you are just here to observe, there's no need to enter your appearance here today. But for those who do want to participate, what I'd like you to do is use the raise a hand feature so that I know who to call on. And you can do that just by clicking on the raise hand icon that looks like a hand. I'll have you lower those once we've gone through everyone. If there is more than one person on behalf of the same entity, I'm going to ask that the first person called upon, please introduce the rest of your colleagues. And that will save us a little bit of time. Okay, so let's get started with entries of appearance. I'm just going to call on people based on the order I see on my screen. So I'll call on Brandon Dittman. Go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know who you're here on behalf of. Please also state and spell your name for us.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. Brandon Dittman, Brandon Dittman, of Will Swims, Fellman Dittman, representing the Colorado Communications and Utility Alliance, the City of Fort Collins, City of Arvada, City of Aurora, a number of other jurisdictions on the municipal agency side.
Hayden, do you represent
Hayden's no
Hayden?
longer participating in this proceeding.
Oh, okay. And what about Yuma County?
And Yuma County as well, yes.
They're they are participating or they're not?
They are. Yuma County is still part of this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me call on Caitlin Werner. Go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Your Honor. Caitlin Werner, KatelynWerner, with QPWB, and I'm appearing on behalf of BNSF today.
Is there anybody else on behalf of BNSF that you can introduce?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I will call on the person identified on screen as Colby Rinker. And if you could turn your camera on for us, that would be great.
Yes, Your Honor, trying. Is it working there?
Yeah, you succeeded.
All right. Colby Rinker, COLBY-RINKER, representing Union Pacific Railroad.
Anybody else on behalf of Union Pacific with us today?
Josephine Jordan may be joining. I think she might be running a few minutes late. But if she doesn't join, I'll take the lead.
Thank you. And I had from our last hearing, Sean Lanka appearing also for Union Pacific. So let me call on you and you can let me know if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll really need to participate. I guess as needed, but okay, Josephine Jordan is on. She was having tech issues. That's why I raised my hand just to say she'll be on momentarily and she's here, I think. Oh, there you are, Jordan. Okay. I saw your name and okay, so she's here. Thanks.
And did I get your name right?
Lanka, Sean Lanka. Yeah,
Lanka.
yeah. You said it both ways. I said
I
thanks, but
wasn't
yeah, it is
sure.
Lanka. Yeah, it is Lanka. So thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, and Miss Jordan, I've already got you
Okay, thank
noted.
you.
You just joined
My
us, so we,
apologies.
no worries. It happens. I think everybody has a snag every now and then. Okay, is there, just make sure I'm not missing anybody. Is there anybody else that needs to enter an appearance? Okay, I'm gonna say if I've missed anybody, you can unmute yourself and speak up. Otherwise, we are gonna move on to the next phase of things. So the purpose of this hearing is to just basically get some reports and updates on where the parties are on the negotiations and discussions about consensus template agreement. When we last met, and it's actually been probably the last few times that we have met, you all have been very close to finalizing a template construction and maintenance agreement for at-grade crossings. And I think very, very close with the one that Union Pacific can use, and just starting to iron out the details on the one for BNSF. So that's the first thing I'm going to want a status update on that. I want to go through the other two things I want a status update on. That way I can call it on folks and you can update me on everything all at the same time. So the second thing was that you all agreed you would start working on reaching a consensus on template construction and maintenance agreements for grade separated projects, crossing projects. So I'm going to want to hear what the progress has been on that. And then third, you were all supposed to confer with each other as to where template preliminary engineering agreement could be used for any type of crossing project over which the commission has jurisdiction. And the reason I wanted to hear from you all on that is that if that is the case, if the answer to that question is yes, then I want this to be the next prioritized agreement after grade separated agreements. So with all that in mind, I want to just see who would like to update me. You can use the raise the hand feature to signal that you'd like to speak. Thank you for volunteering, Mr. Dittman. Please go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Since no one was jumping up and down to start, I guess I will take that on. So the parties have met several times since our last meeting before you. And to give an update on where we were at, I would say for all intensive purposes, the Union Pacific at-grade template is done. Every now and then we find something as we're going through the other agreements that we miss, small, kind of non-substantial changes, but for the most part, that document is pretty much done. The grade separated agreement for Union Pacific is also, I would say, 95% done at this point in time. We probably need one more meeting to kind of tie up some loose ends on that one, and we've actually scheduled that, I think, either next week or the week after to do that. And so we feel very good about getting that one done soon. BNSF is a little bit different story in terms of the at-grade agreement. We've, at least on the municipal side, we've expressed a concern that it's substantially different from the Union Pacific, at least in form. Some of the pieces are the same and carried over from UP, but it's kind of the structure of the agreement's very different. But in good faith, we've been working on trying to go through it and address what we can. I'd say, at least to that task, we're probably about 75% done would be my estimation. We've identified a number of kind of sticking points we're still trying to work through, but I think the agencies still have kind of a general concern with the BNSF at-grade agreement, in that, we thought there'd be, initially in this proceeding, one template. We've been learned there'd be, multiple templates with some railroad specific changes due to operations and of course changing the names. And, it's kind of an entirely different agreement. And so, we've been still working on it. If the ALJ feels that's appropriate, we're happy to continue to work on that path, but we just did want to express that concern on the record.
I mean, I think probably the original idea was that there would be one that could be used for all railroads, but I think we also have to be nimble somewhat, because it's really hard for me to sit here and say that, oh yes, absolutely, it should absolutely fit even though it's a completely different entity that everybody would be contracting with. So I want to give BNSF some grace on that and try to be somewhat flexible. I think that it's not going to be a problem if we have two different ones for that. If we had 10 different agreements for the same type of crossing project, that would be a different story, but that's not really what we're talking about here. So I don't see it as a huge obstacle, but what I do hope to see is ultimately there not being any real substantial deviations in terms of substance that really matters to the commission and is the whole reason behind having these template agreements in rule. And that is that we aren't going to be in a position where everybody is having to renegotiate or see different terms in the BNSF agreement as compared to the Union Pacific agreement on things such as the items that were identified in the rulemaking decision that I issued, things that, you know, essentially would make a contract with a state entity void under Colorado law anyway. So I'd like to see some level of consistency there, and I am hopeful that the differences aren't going to be so much of a stumbling block in terms of getting it actually done. Mr. Dimon, you can enlighten me on that. I mean, what are we looking at here in terms of differences?
I mean, I would say that they're entirely different in terms of their structure and content. However, you know, some of the key terms that we've talked about in the past have been closely mirrored. We're still, I think, dealing with indemnification as an issue in the BNSF agreement. But I think most of, you know, the other issues, I think the big pieces we've talked about before, you know, the BNSF's credit we have, they're pretty close. But the agreements are not even comparable in some degrees. And so that has been some, you know, our concern. But, you know, again, we've worked in good faith towards trying to come to consensus with what we have, and we'll continue to do so.
So I think I was writing something down when you were speaking and somehow managed to get confused about something that you said. So I want to get clarity on that before I turn to BNSF on some of these updates. I thought you said that you were all about 90% done with the BNSF at grade agreement. So what did I get wrong there? I don't think that's right.
I would say 75%
Okay.
are done with, we're still some outstanding issues we're working through, you know, 75% done with the form we have. You know, I think we originally, you know, when we received that form and we had the chance to review it, you know, said that we thought we were going to get something closer to the UP's agreement than what we got. You know, but still, you know, in good faith, been working towards improving what we did get. And so I know my clients just really want to make it known that, you know, it is a substantially different agreement. And we thought there would be differences, you know, but we didn't think it'd be, you know, different to the degree it is. So.
Okay. And so what was 90% done? Is that the Union Pacific one? Is that?
Union, I'd say for all intents and purposes, you know, the Union Pacific at grade is done, and the grade separated is probably 90% done. Because what we've done with the grade separated of the UP is basically take the at grade and just copy most of the same terms and conditions over, and so they're pretty similar in structure.
Okay, I knew that you said something was 90% done. I just didn't get it down right, so now I've got that. Okay. So I will be asking as a follow-up to the rest of the group, and you can give me your thoughts on this as well. I want to see, I really want to see some movement. We've been working on this for a long time, and I don't have a single template that I have been able to look at that you all have agreed to and approve and send up the chain so that we can get it posted and people can start using them. So what I want to hear from people today is a timeline within which I can expect to see the final versions of the union, all three of these, the Union Pacific at grade, the Union Pacific grade separated, the BNSF at grade, and the BNSF grade separated. Mr. Dittman, do you have any sense about when I can expect that?
I mean, I think the UP agreements, like we could probably submit, you know, for you fairly soon. I'd say, you know, the holidays are coming, of course, which will, you know, slow things down. But I would think, and I looked at Josephine, whether she would agree by the end of January, even maybe we could submit the two UP agreements. I have a harder time kind of, you know, knowing on the BNSF agreement, because there has been, you know, some points of contention. We're trying to work through those. But I mean, I would hopeful. I mean, we could send it in draft in progress draft, maybe if AOJ would like that. Whatever you would prefer with regards to that document.
No, I don't want a draft. I want it to be done, because I might get it and then have issues and questions that we need to go over. So it'd be best just to have the version that everybody has agreed to. So, all right, I'm going to hear from everybody on that. But I'm thinking end of January, maybe to set a deadline to get something filed. And then that way, if I did have any questions, we could address it in the February hearing. And if I don't have questions, I'm looking, there's this unique situation procedurally. I think I'll be bifurcating aspects of this case repeatedly, so that I can issue separate recommended decisions about each agreement once they're finalized, so we don't have to wait on everything. So that's probably what I'll do if I don't have any issues or questions with what is filed. So Mr. Dittman, the other question I was hoping for an update on is whether the parties have conferred about whether a template preliminary engineering agreement could be used for any type of crossing over which the commission has jurisdiction.
I don't believe we've come to consensus on that issue at this time. At least from the municipal perspective, we'd like as few as templates as possible. But I don't think we've come to, as a group, a consensus on to what extent that's possible or not.
Have the participants discussed it and people just have different positions, or has this just been overlooked again?
Yeah, it's not been an area of substantial discussion. I could say that. And I haven't been at every meeting, but the meetings I've been, it's not been a substantial discussion.
Okay. All right. That's like I think at least the second time I've asked the parties to be prepared to answer that question at a hearing, and I haven't really gotten the sense that everybody is prepared. I'll hear from everybody and see if y'all can change my mind, but I might need to issue an order requiring you all to make a filing on this. I don't want you all to have to waste your resources on something you could have just reported to me, but that seems to be the only way I can get you guys to talk about it. All right, let me see. Mr. Dittman, is there anything else you want to add before I move on to somebody else?
No, that's all. I will note that I'm the only one here right now for the agencies, and there are other people. So I've just given you my perspective. I think other people may have, different perspectives, but
Sure.
Make sure that was known for the record.
Yeah, if anybody who is here who wants to chime in is welcome to use the raise a hand feature. So let me call on Ms. Werner.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, mostly agree with everything. Just wanted to, provide a little more input. We did graft the major portions onto BNSF's template agreement. We met as recently as yesterday and are still getting more feedback from the agencies. So, and then part of it is that there'll be a change to one of those grafted portions. And so it then kind of goes back to UP. So, it's been reiterated that we would like to, once we get that consensus on that language, that we would be able to just graft it. And yes, I think it was just yesterday we were informed there was a provision. Sounds like they're going to take issue with. So, we have a meeting again, I believe this Friday. But yes, it is taking longer. But we were able to graft the major portions, and now it sounds like there may be one that we really need to dig into. But other than that, we've moved along to the extent we can.
Now, is that's the case for both the at-grade and the grade separated agreements?
No, we have not started the grade separated. I would welcome, I think we filed them maybe a year ago. We can get started on that as well if you would like. I would also welcome if there are going to be, points of issue for the municipalities, ask them to go ahead and let us know. So that the parties can substantially discuss that.
That sounds a little different from what Mr. Dittman had reported. So I'll go back to him in a minute and he can maybe explain what he was meaning. So it doesn't sound like there's been much progress in terms of the BNSF grade separated. I mean, Mr. Dittman reported he thought it was about 90% done. And that's not, what do you
That's
think
UP.
then? I'm sorry, you're right. That is UP. So it was BNSF, so 75% done. Okay. And is there, I did say I want to give BNSF some grace in terms of it not having to be absolutely identical, but I am curious, is there any, I guess, purpose behind maintaining your agreement being in such a different form and format from the one that everybody's been working off of?
Yeah, so I mean, we came with two different forms, and now we're working on ours. You know, we just have two different companies, completely different processes and procedures on certain things, such as notification to start work. And we went over yesterday and who you inform. And so it's just a complete internal different organization that we're trying um, to work with that has, you know, set processes and procedures everywhere. So it does, you know, there will be different portions. And I would, you know, think that, you know, that's why they're different.
Okay, all right. I thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to hear it from you guys. As long as there's a reason for it, I mean, I'm certainly not going to take issue with it. It would only be an issue in my mind if it was just because, not for any real reason. Okay, all right. What about the other topics that I was hoping to get updates on? I'll just go ahead, and I think we just talked about the at grade and the grade separated and the status there, and why haven't, I'd like to get a position from participants about whether template preliminary and engineering agreements could be used for any type of crossing project.
And I will say I'm reaching out to my contact right now to make sure my memory is correct on what I'm going to say. So hopefully during this hearing, I can provide a response for BNSF.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Ms. Werner, how much time do you think would be needed to get these two agreements done?
Sorry, one second. Just want to push that through. I think it will be similar as it has kind of been. I anticipate it'll be similar in that once we have, you know, the at grade, then we can do the grade separated and it should be pretty seamless. That is my hope, but again, you know, definitely welcome people giving it a look and letting us know if there's any, you know, so we can get started earlier.
End of January, can you file an agreement?
For both?
Even one, I take anything at this point.
Yes, I believe the at grade will be more recently, I don't know if it's to the holidays, but we're kind of having problems meeting up, even though we are meeting more frequently now. We're not able to get as much done as we'd like just with everything at the end of the year. But yes, I believe the end of January.
Okay.
For the at grade.
For the at grade, right. Okay, all right. Is there anything else more that you would like to add?
Not this time, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Jordan.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple of things is that Mr. Bittman is correct with regards to grade at grade. We're at 100% pretty much there. And then our next meeting for grade separation is going to be this Friday, December the 12th. We hope to be able to finalize that and then have basically templates, final draft submitted then by the end of January is the goal there. Now, with regards to the preliminary engineering templates, at least I thought on past hearings where we had discussed, we were moving at a progression with regards to at grade separation and then the Ps. We would imagine and we think that's going to be about around maybe 3 months to navigate and work through that. So that date for those being at least completed on the UP side would be more so maybe like around the probably May, April time date for the draft of that. We do have some questions around the logistics and housekeeping and where these agreements will be stored at and how that will happen. So I don't know when we can present those questions to at least get your thoughts and the commission's thoughts in terms about how that will work.
So on that, just thinking back to the rulemaking hearing, I think there might have been some comments, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there might have been some concern about contracts being wanting some confidentiality with them. Is that part of why you're raising that issue? Is there a concern about confidentiality?
That's part of it, but we do want to understand too, at least what's the initial thoughts in terms of one, where they would be stored at, two, how they would get formally filed in the docket. And then I think also too, with regards to if there's updates to those as to how that would occur. And I think the other thing too that we want to get clarification on is because even though these serves as templates, that oftentimes parties are, changing various different aspects of the agreement. And we just want to make sure in terms of that, we would assume that the parties are still able to negotiate different aspects of the agreement. This does represent as a template. We recognize that. But then also too, as the parties are negotiating various different aspects of it, that they're still free to be able to do that. So we just wanted to get guidance on that too as well.
So I think that's probably something I have to put in the written decision when I'm reviewing and approving, but I'll just tell you what I anticipate. And I've always anticipated the parties having some flexibility because each project is going to be unique. You have to be able to modify the contract for the individual project. But that flexibility sort of has to bend to what's required under Colorado law, especially for the governing bodies. They have restrictions under the municipal code and state statute and the Colorado Constitution. And that is something that really cannot be renegotiated in the templates. I mean, frankly, that's one of the major reasons we are doing these to begin with. Other issues, I certainly couldn't answer unless I knew what it was, but that's really the primary purpose. And so those are the primary terms that I would be very protective of and plan to be very protective of in any decision that I write up. In terms of just logistics, what I was anticipating is that we would be posting the templates that have been approved on our website, probably in the same page as where you find our rules. I think that's contemplated by Rule 7214, and it would then be easy for anybody to download, and it would be just a form. It wouldn't have the specifics of any one crossing project on there. And I would anticipate it being like a fillable PDF type format. But I'm not the IT person, so I don't know 100% for sure. These are the kinds of things that I can look into in more detail as I'm getting ready to issue recommended decisions on each one of these. And I am also open to comments, questions, and suggestions that people might have about the best way to manage this.
Okay, thank you.
Did that answer, as much as I could, your question?
That provided some additional guidance, yes. Okay. And I think that we can also too provide some suggestions too as well for what we also too kind of experience in other aspects too when we work through processes like this too.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dittman, let me call on you again.
There we go. So thank you so much. Just want a couple follow-ups that should be fairly short. First, I agree with BNSF that once we work out the at-grade crossing to the extent we can, it will help move along the grade separated, a lot better. So the reason why we have not dealt it all into the grade separated is the issues are the same pretty much. These documents are very similar for both railroads between the grade separated and the at-grades. And so once we work, get one in a place where everyone's comfortable with it, the other one is pretty easy to get to the finish line. It's been mostly just checking things, making sure they're consistent, getting exhibits straightened out, that sort of thing. And so I think that's one of the reasons why there hasn't been progress made as much, is that we haven't got all the way up to on the grade at grade crossing. Second, just clarifying the 70% comment. So as I said, we initially objected to the form, but, we have been working so there'll be some progress made on the form that there is. And so that's why, even though there are, an overall, it's still, not our preferred way of doing this. We've been working with the form we have, right? And we think there are pretty substantial differences. But we've been trying to make the best of it as we've been going along. So just clarifying what that 70% means. I know that you've had concerns about that. Finally, the last thing I wanted to kind of mention in terms of process and maybe help with Josephine's comments. The way I envision this working, procedurally, and the ALJ can certainly correct me if you want to see something different, is that when we file in January, it'll be a joint notice of filing, and then attach as an exhibit, what we've come up with. I mean, that's what makes sense from a commission perspective. The only question I have on that is if there are unsolvable issues. I mean, can we have separate filing saying, we're doing this under protest? Maybe pieces of it. I hope that's not the case, but I'm just trying to envision possibilities between now and then.
Sure. So, if what I really don't want is, there being pieces that the parties don't agree to that aren't related to essentially the purpose behind even requiring template agreements. So, if there are disagreements about things that are just completely unrelated to the reason why we're doing this in the first place, that's not really something I'm going to be inclined to chime in on. I really want you all to work it out. I'm really trying to limit what the commission is imposing on the parties who are going to agree to contracts, so that it's pretty narrow in that it's going to be limited to the things that are required by law. So I would say an example would be, I also wouldn't expect the parties to, let's say we do have a rule. I can't remember the rule number off the top of my head, but it says that the railroad is responsible for paying for maintenance costs on equipment at a crossing. What I don't want is you give me this contract, everybody's agreed to it. It's got that in there. This is what the rule says. This is what's going to happen with this crossing. And then to have a project delayed and slowed because then there's going to be renegotiating on that one term. There shouldn't be any renegotiating on that one term. But that is exactly the kind of term that has to be firm. And if there is a fight over that, I will help resolve that fight. That's the kind of a thing I'm happy to help with. But if there's a fight over something that really isn't something required under Colorado law, I am not inclined to chime in. If I can avoid it, I'd really like you all to work it out. So if we do get to an impasse on some of these issues, we can certainly talk it out. I don't know if having me involved in the discussion would be helpful. I'm happy to be involved in the discussion, maybe even act somewhat as a mediator. We can certainly explore that as we get, I guess, down. If we have to go down that path, we can. So hopefully that sheds a little bit more light on, where I'm seeing all this heading. So I think what I would like to do is set some deadline. And I will call on all of you to correct me if I misunderstood anything that anybody has said, because I'm setting deadlines based on what you all have represented. So it looks to me that the Union Pacific at grade and grade separated agreement, we should be able to have the final versions of those ready to be filed by the end of January. And so I'm looking at setting a deadline of January 30th to get those filed. And y'all raise your hand if I've got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard that from more than one person that that's doable. Okay. Nobody has said anything, so I'm going to set that deadline. So at the UP, at grade and grade separated agreements will be due on January 30th, 2026. I want to set a deadline for the BNSF at grade agreement. As I understand it, it may not be possible for the grade separated one to be done within the timeframe that I'm contemplating, but possibly the at-grade agreement. And so I'm going to set that to be the same deadline as Union Pacific's, January 30th, the BNSF at-grade construction and maintenance agreement should be filed. I'll expect participants to continue to work on the grade separated agreement with the BNSF grade separated agreement as well. And I am going to include in my decision a deadline. Probably I'll just call it January 30th. Just for consistency, I will include that as a deadline for participants to make a filing indicating whether you believe that a template preliminary engineering agreement can be used for any type of crossing over which the commission has jurisdiction. I need to hear people's positions. And frankly, what I'm going to tell you right now, because Union Pacific's 2 contracts are going to get filed at the end of January, and we've got another hearing, almost a month for the next hearing, I will expect you all to move on to the next agreement after those are done. I had hoped it would be the PI agreements if they could be used for any other type of crossing. But if they can't be used for any other type of crossing, you all can certainly, if you have one that you think ought to be the next one you should turn to, let me know now. Otherwise, I'll just leave it to you all to decide that in the interim. If anybody has one that you would suggest, go ahead and use the raise the hand feature. Okay. So I'll just note that nobody did raise a hand. So either you will move to the preliminary engineering agreement, or you'll pick another one that makes more sense to start on next after Union Pacific's at-grade and grade separated agreements are done, and BNSF's at-grade agreement, which is due also on January 30th, is done. I am hopeful that by the time of our next hearing, the BNSF grade separated agreement will be done or very, very close to being done, because I expect to see some significant progress between now and then. Does anybody need me to review any of these other deadlines? Again, do you all have it? Do you have any questions? Yes, Ms. Jarvis.
Your Honor, I wanted to apologize for coming to the meeting. I will catch up with Brandon, and luckily he does represent us, and it's, from what I heard, it was well represented. I had the meeting on for 3 and thought I was calling in early, and so my deepest apologies. I so much did not mean any disrespect by showing up late. I thought it was early.
That's okay. And just for the record, I have that you are with the city of Fort Collins or the county of Fort Collins?
City of Fort Collins.
City of Fort Collins. Okay. Well, I'm glad you were able to join us. Our next one in February is also at 2:30.
I am going to make sure I have that correct. I don't know what happened. Thank you.
Okay. I'm just making a couple more notes here before we close it out, just to make sure I've captured everything. Is there anything else that we need to address? Okay. I am going to take everybody's silence to mean that there is nothing more to address. I will get a written decision issued. I am just going to take a quick look at the calendar because the holidays coming up, we get to kind of a tight time frame. I don't just get to write decisions and file them. They have to go through a process, and that takes other people's support. I should be able to get one issued by about December 19th at the latest. So you will see that in writing, but hopefully everybody is taking good notes on those deadlines that I've set. All right, thank you all. And I also just want to say I really appreciate all of your hard work and negotiating these agreements. I know this is not fun, and I know that especially the railroads is not really something they wanted to do in the first place, but you are doing it, and I appreciate that tremendously. I really do think this is going to save all of you, railroads, and all the local governments a lot of money and a lot of resources in the future. So you do not have to continue to argue about this and every single time that you're dealing with a crossing project. So again, I thank you all for your participation and your effort, and our hearing will be adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.